We're having parents and grandparents who are in our program. If you were 18 years old in 1989, you have potentially a grandchild that's now in our program. So it's my gray hair was dark when I started. So I totally understand that model. And I've seen young people come through this program. And now I'm invited to weddings and I'm meeting children and I'm meeting the growth of the organization where they said, I want my child in this because it mattered so much to me. And when we have that long reciprocity, it's a huge proof of just the power of what we're doing is good.
Ryan, welcome to Grow Healthy, Help People, the podcast that Accordis puts out. We love talking with nonprofit leaders of awesome organizations. So you're located in North Carolina. Tell me about Right Moves for Youth. Give me a quick overview of what Right Moves for Youth is.
Yeah, easy stuff here. We are a youth development organization that uses group mentoring to help students in essentially middle and high school make the most out of education, connections, opportunities, and the goal of setting themselves up for future success after high school. So we try to keep it as simple as that.
Are the programs run through local high schools, or are they outside of the school that kids would come to after school?
We actually we have the luxury now of operating during the school day, where previously when we all started, it was always after school programming. But when I came on board in 2011, I started to convince a few principals that transportation was the biggest issue. And all it took was one. And then pitting principals against one another, like, oh, so-and-so's doing it. Do you want to do it? And then we help overcome the obstacle. And when they have students engaged fully, then they saw the value of it easily once it was during the school day.
That's awesome. I look forward to digging more into the programs. Before we get there, tell me a little bit of your story. Are you a North Carolina guy, been there forever and ever? And Tell me about your professional journey from schooling into now running a successful nonprofit.
Yeah, really, really amazing journey when you really think about it, but not a born and bred North Carolinian. I've been here long enough to feel like it, but born in Flint, Michigan, made my way down to Virginia for college and have been in the Charlotte area since 2002. So we're looking at 24 years. I think I've been here longer than I was at my hometown. So this is kind of home now that we absolutely love and so passionate about. And my journey is kind of a unique one that in 2009, a friend of mine asked if I could volunteer with this nonprofit organization in Charlotte with mentoring. I've always been passionate about young people, always felt like there was future and hope. And there was something about it that seemed really great. We called it the Catapult Project that we were doing. And so part of that was catapulting staff, catapulting schools and catapulting students to like further success. But one of the things they did is partner with this organization called Right Moves for Youth. And I started as a volunteer. At that moment in my life, I was selling software, a compliance software for athletic departments. So the compliance directors would want this software and we would work with athletics to make sure they stayed in the lines back when it mattered and what you did in athletics in college before what's happening today. But the idea was taking that moment, I would go every week and work with these young people and just absolutely loved it. One day I went back to my office and said, I really wish I could kind of connect my skills and what I'm really passionate about, because as great as our software was, I wasn't passionate about it. It was a cog. I was selling software, making good money, and made a crazy leap and searched and found out they were hiring and made the jump and started as their first staff hire as a paid mentor, where they were essentially program specialists were assigned to schools and began the mentoring process with students.
And that was what year that you came on as staff?
I came on staff in 2011.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been mentoring and on staff with Right Moves for Youth for 15 years now.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the journey from paid mentor? I mean, you obviously have the drive, the focus, the desire to be in those relationships, but then there were steps from there to being now the executive director. Yeah. What did that process look like?
Well, I say fairly easy, but really it's just about staying the process, as you mentioned. It started as a program specialist, which was great, but I brought in an acumen for business. I understood how to have community engagement and relationships because of my sales background and part of my personality. So that then got me into a program manager position, which was typically, if I could even backtrack a minute, like my journey typically has always been found, no matter what I did in life, people would put me in leadership positions. It wasn't necessarily I sought them, but they saw my skills and my personality and said, let's put him in a leadership role. So program manager, then a few years later into program director. So I was running the program for a decade. COVID ends up happening in 2020. We had a son just like a month before that. So a young son named PJ, he was born. COVID happens. Our program, which is in-person mentoring, has to take a shift to virtual. And at that moment, my wife and I were trying to discuss, like, here we are, we're both working full-time jobs from home completely. We have this brand new baby. It was causing chaos on our house. And like, so one of us needs to figure this out. And she loves her work and she loves our children. So it's like, how do we figure it out? So I went to our organization and said, hey, I'm probably gonna have to step away because we can't find childcare because of the environment. They said, give me 24 hours. The current executive director at that time said, give me 24 hours, created a position we'd never had at this organization, a community engagement director. So I had a chance to work with partnerships and social media and website and really tell the story more. And that aligned well. And then three years into that, our executive director transitioned to another role in a career elsewhere. And the board approached me and said, would I be interested? And we had gotten our boys we had another son in that time, because that's what COVID would do to you. And, we made the decision, like, hey, let me jump back into this role and this world. And instead of remote work and part-time, I said, I really am passionate about this. Let's do it. And now, using all of those years of experience, I get a chance to kind of spearhead it from all layers that I've seen to now heading in the direction that we really know that it can go to continue to be successful.
That's awesome. Ryan, so tell me about the mentorship that happens within the schools. And you started as a staff mentor. Are there other staff mentors now? Or is the model better volunteer driven or staff driven? Tell me about kind of how you guys roll out the programs.
Yeah, what was previously all volunteer mentors is now a model where each group it's group mentoring is how we operate. And so each group at the school site where we serve 60 students, typically it's 2 to 3 groups. So it could be anywhere from 20 to 30 students in a group in a setting. And those groups happen in the classroom. And so we kind of take them away from their classroom environment and put them into another room where it's a chance for us to model almost like group counseling. It's just modeled that way, even though we're not counselors, but we're facilitators of conversation. And so that modeling now has allowed not just one mentor, a program specialist to do it, but really we have 5 program staff members, a program director, a program manager, and 3 specialists. All are involved in group mentoring inside the space, but we get to bring alongside the school resource officer, who has a very heavy mandate from their chief to be involved, because we found our founding was a part of that, where a school resource officer saw the value in young people, created this idea of a group, and then that's where we were birthed. And then community volunteers come alongside of our staff specialist, who's the paid mentor. We develop the curriculum in-house, so to know our students, to know the demographics that we serve, the population. We work very hard with data analytics and assessments to find out what they need and then build the curriculum to match their needs. So that's happening week in and week out at 21 schools in Charlotte, which is about 49 groups happening. And
times 20 roughly, right?
Yeah, exactly.
1,000 kids roughly.
Yeah, this is exactly where our targets are. I think we're sitting currently right around 900 this year. Wow. So that's a capacity, but also like a full amount of work happening every single week.
I love the volume. It's one story at a time, but I love thinking about how there's 49 schools that have mentors showing up to mentor, even just the concept of investing in people's lives. Yeah. Them going, are you a teacher? No, I'm not a teacher. Why are you here? Because I care about you. Yeah. I care about you growing, you thriving, you having mental, physical, social, emotional health. All those things matter, not just to you, but to the community around you. That's really cool. So, and also tell me about some of the drives to have paid mentors, because typically in the mentor world, there's a staff person that manages the mentors, and the mentors are all volunteers. Right. But I know the answer. But tell me why it's hard to run an organization, a nonprofit, running lots of. I mean, every day there's meetings in multiple schools. So tell me why you do the paid mentor model rather than just volunteers.
Yeah, I mean, it's typically what we know. Volunteers themselves are limited capacity. And so with that limited capacity, it's not that they don't have good heart. It's just when they're going back to their job at Bank of America or at Wells Fargo or wherever they work and all the different layers of employment that's here in the city, they have an hour a week that they can give. But while that value of that week is good, that hour that they serve each week, the mentor who's committed to that group, our specialist, is so in tune in what is needed that they can be the connector for those volunteers, that they're essentially, our volunteers, the luxury for them now is they're more support roles and they don't have to be the foundational piece of it all. They get to come alongside, just build relationships. That's all we need. And it's valuable.
About how many mentors do you think you have on staff right now?
On staff, 5, but in terms of the volunteers in the community that still come in, I mean, we're talking probably about 45, 50 community volunteers that are a part of it.
Yeah, and if everything was run by volunteers, while that'd be great, there'd be turnover, there'd be same day cancellations. Hey, my kid is sick. I can't make it today. Well, if it's a job, sometimes there's a different motivation of going, I got to be at work today. And then also, like, you don't want the turnover in the class setting where the kids are going, who's pick the mentor this week? Who's going to show up this week? Or with staff, you can direct control, not control in a negative way, but guide, and expect certain things out of staff that is just almost impossible to expect out of volunteers.
Yeah, well,
not a difference in desire, but a difference in deliverables.
100%, because our desire is really about them being the art staff, although they are paid and there's their, we'll call quote unquote job, all of them, when it comes to the hiring process, are so focused on wanting to give their lives. And that's part of my hiring process in terms of when I ask about what their youth development experience, how they care about young people, the questions we pull out of them to say, I'm invested in this. Like, they would, if they could, do it for nothing. But they get the luxury of having that pay model. And it's like, oh, I get to do something with my life that's so impactful. And we have great stories here too. Like, one of our program managers is an alumni of our program. Like, she gets it. So she gets to now invest not only in young people in a full circle moment, but she's also spearheading with the other specialists, our mentors, to tell them the impact that it truly had and why here she is giving it back and being so good at it because she's seen it modeled well for her. And that's the change. When young people have adults who care about them and have a help them building plans, changes like their possibilities, their opportunities, really. And that's what we're doing here.
That's so great. I would also imagine that you have had at least some people apply from the volunteer pool to the staff pool. People that go, I want to do this all the time. But at some point you say, you can.
Yeah.
It's called a job. Are you interested in a job?
Yeah. Well, and that's the fun part. That's my own journey. I did that same thing. So I get a chance now when I tell that story to have people come on and go, oh, I love this. How do I get involved even more? I'm willing to, at first they start like, Ryan, can I talk to you on the side? Like, do I quit my job? I'm like, that's your call. If this is something you want, we have space for it. When the opportunities arise, I tell you what, when we have openings, the community comes in and says, I want that. And so it becomes competitive because it's such a great place to work. But it's not about the place to work. It's the work itself is so powerful that they just want to do that as a part of their life.
That's great. So tell me about the schools. You got 49 schools that you're in right now. Are they any school, public, private, whoever will take you guys? Or tell me more about how you get into the schools.
Let me clarify our numbers here. It's 49 groups. That's 21 schools. So that means 2 to 3 per site.
Yeah. In most schools, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And so it's all inside of Charlotte and Mecklenburg schools right now. Yep. So the local public school setting. We do have, constant requests from charter schools, from private schools, from other counties now. We've had across the years, we've had states, Chicago, New Mexico, South Carolina, all reach out to us saying, how do we get your program? Part of that's just a scaling process. We're still a small staff and that's strategically thinking what we're going to do next. But the ability to inside the city on the public school setting, primarily underserved populations that we serve. So of our, we have 140,000 students in our school district here in this city. Large school district, we're serving only 1,000 of them. So there's a ton of growth potential even just inside of our own community. And if we're in 21 school sites, there are 78 middle and high schools available to be serving in. That's why we need the community to come along in terms of funding, staying connected and engaged so that way we can keep growing and expanding to bring those volunteers on as staff members and keep the flow going for young people to have more chances.
Yeah. So tell me about your funding model. I'm guessing there's some grant funding, probably some private donations, foundations. Tell me more.
I would say we're pretty, I'd say we, inside we think we're not diversified, but we are fairly diversified. We've got grants. We have companies here who are very invested in us, individual donors who've been as long as we've been open. They've been giving money and cultivating those things. We do fundraising in general with events and different things that we try to get going using social media platforms, our email marketing. So we're constantly in all of the layers, but I would say we're probably 50% on grants right now, which we're trying to change. And then 25 and 25 with individuals and companies and organizations come alongside.
That's great. So what are challenges that you see for a successful nonprofit organization, a CEO like you, director like you? What are some challenges that consistently pop up that you're having to tackle? What are things that feel heavy and burdensome sometimes on a leader's plate that also I want to talk about after that? What are things that feel like, man, they're just clicking, like this is just working all day, every day?
In the nonprofit space, of course, I think every leader would always say it really is the challenge is the funding. And it's not just about getting the funding. It's about how are you a good steward with your resource? So many funders in the community, don't necessarily want to go to overhead, but we're a unique model in that we provide people. So that's something that our overhead is really an impactful part of the program. So we have to really convince and show, and our data does, our impact shows that the adult relationships changes the trajectory of a person. But that would be one basic one, but also like people. It's a people game and a people business. And that's the big challenge because people are changing constantly. Our culture is changing constantly. Youth culture changes even quicker. So you have to be on the go and on the know. And being a gifted storyteller, and you have to be able to market this in today's society. Like if you can't spread your wings and tell the story well, then you're just going to be a closed door someday because you had a great model, but like you couldn't tell people about it and you didn't get in front of the right audience. So knocking down doors, telling stories, and just constantly doing that, that's a little bit of a capacity thing. Like how much energy do you really have?
Yeah. I could also imagine you're in the business of relationships. You have mentors in the schools. Your mentors know the administration for the school. They know the students for the school. One of your mentors moves out of town. You got to jump into all of these relationships and say, hey, they moved to Wichita. They're awesome. They're not angry. It wasn't a bad departure, but they're whatever. They moved to Wichita, and now you're going. Now we got to get a new mentor in. They've got to get to know the administration. I imagine that's also just a challenge in any organization, but particularly an organization that hinges on relationships, which is what Right Moves for Youth does.
Well, isn't business a good model is the idea of scenario planning. No matter what your work is, you have to be prepared for scenarios. So we have this team first mentality that says, if someone's out at that moment or someone's stepping away or however it's going down, that someone will jump in and help, will carry the load together because that's the power. Again, we do group work. So the power of the group is being able to carry the large bucket all together rather than one person feeling the weight and the burden of it. And so when we get to do that together, it really helps us in scenario planning. Oh, so-and-so is going to be gone. Well, here's our step process that we document and share and say, this is what we're going to do. All relationships are not siloed. I'm not the holder of the relationship. The school principal knows me. They know our program director, our program manager, and our specialist. They know us all because we're all going to be a part of the process. And we want that to be a shared load because if someone isn't there, we still want the relationships to be connected.
Yeah, that's great. Tell me what's working great.
It's funny. It's the same thing as the challenge, the people. When you are building really strong, consistent, valuable relationships, the people love what they do. The students love what they feel and how the growth they're doing. Their families feel supported. They feel encouraged. Schools see increased outcomes coming from the educational end. We're seeing socially emotional outcomes coming in a positive way. It's working. And it's worked for 37 years. We've seen it from the beginning of day one to this moment now for the next 100 years as we continue this work. It's always going to be a needed service. So I think that's also what's working too, because we do a good job. We prove it week in and week out that the valuable relationships that we build through our work has a lifelong impact, not just on the student, but generations to come. We now, being as tenured as we are as an organization, we're having parents and grandparents who are in our program. If you were 18 years old in 1989, you have potentially a grandchild that's now in our program. So it's my gray hair was dark when I started. So I totally understand that model. And I've seen young people come through this program. And now I'm invited to weddings now, and I'm meeting children, and I'm meeting the growth of the organization where they said, I want my child in this because it mattered so much to me. And when we have that long reciprocity, it's a huge proof of just the power of what we're doing is good.
That is neat. Tell me about your office team. Most folks that may be watching this podcast don't realize running a nonprofit is not just being in a school, being in these mentorship relationships, having all the impact. You also have to do payroll and compliance and filing IRS forms. Yes, even though a nonprofit is not for profit, it still has to file forms to the IRS. And you got to make sure receipts get out the door and all those things happen. Who handles that on your team, Ryan?
Well, it's, again, another shared load. Part of in the fundraising realm, our development team, which we have two amazing people who are part of fundraising, they have to make sure they're documenting everything, making sure that's all done. But my BFF / partner in crime is our operations manager. She does an amazing job of understanding payroll, of understanding HR value, of understanding us documenting and recording and reconciliations and requisition forms and all of the stuff you have to do to manage the dollars. Because at the end of the day, us being good stewards of the dollar matters because the people are trusting us to do a good job with money. Over the years, I wish every nonprofit had always done a great job, but we are going to make sure we're not a story on the news, that we're always following the rules, that we're always above board, that we're always transparent and honest. But because Taylor does that in such a great way as our operations manager, I am also heavily involved in it. So I want to make sure that we're always following the rules. We have an amazing board of directors, an incredible treasurer who wants to be active and not just from a in the weeds like micromanagement, but using their expertise to help us navigate budget creation and understanding what a Form 990 really is and how to read the audit. Like when I started, I kind of knew what audits were from business, but like I wasn't ingrained like I am now of knowing the value of us making sure we're tracking receipts, in-kind donations, depreciation. Those things all matter. On the back end, someone may never see it when a student's in our program. I don't want them to have to see that. But when a funder wants to come or a stakeholder wants to see what we're doing as an honest work, we want to be able to open the doors anytime and show it to them.
Love that. That's so wise to have that team in place and to have all of the items buttoned up, even if you don't have to, having them all buttoned up. So if someone ever asks, you say, here it is. Here's everything that we've done. We have nothing to hide, no questions and concerns. So Ryan, you've got a great team running the back office. Accordis, our team, so if you're watching this podcast, our team is a back office for nonprofits. So accounting, marketing, database, all those things that pile up on plates. If you don't have a team like Ryan has, reach out to us. At the end of this podcast, we'll put Accordis, our website. You can reach out to me there. Also, we'll put rightmovesforyouth.org. Ryan, if someone wanted to get involved in Right Moves for Youth, what is a step they could take or a next step for them?
Yeah, the website's the easiest route to go into. Also, if they find any social media channels, that's where they can find us as well. But really, it's the main two things. Typically, of course, we look for resource and time. Those two things, if they want to give financially and use their dollars to make good in this community, we are a great place to do that. But also, if they want to invest their time and be alongside young people to make the right moves, to use a tagline, for a better life for all, then this is a place that they can get connected, they can get involved, they can learn, they can be a part. We have a virtual program that people from all over the country can actually help us lead and facilitate. So there are not just only one way. We have boards and committees and all these things that we invite people into using their gifts and skills to continue to make this an amazing community in our area.
That's great. 5 years from now, where do you hope you'll be? Where do you hope Right Moves for Youth will be in impact, in breadth, in scale, and scope?
Yeah, I think my big dream in 5 years would be to scale beyond Charlotte, Mecklenburg. I think number one, we would have a larger footprint here, even though we're serving 1,000 students again with
you're still like 0.75% or something.
Such a minimal amount of that, but I really think we have adjoining counties around us, states that want our services. So I really see the process of making not a franchise model, but more how do we scale to a way that's sustainable and still keeps the fidelity of the great work that we do. So that's really what I'm seeing, that growing in directly around us and then seeing what the next step is. Because 5 years is so short. It's like get active. So short, and then
but you can do so much in 5 years.
100%.
Right? Man, I'm encouraged by you, Ryan. Thanks for the work you're doing. Right Moves for Youth is on the right path. And I love seeing folks that are investing in the lives of young people. That matters more than most things do.
Thanks, Shay.
Thanks for being on the podcast. Have a good day.
Thank you.